nature nut, I'm not afraid to admit. I'm wild about the wild things and I'm proud of it. I'm just a simple case, open and shut. No doubt about it, I'm a nature nut. Today we'll go bird watching, tomorrow we'll catch toads. The next day we'll take photographs of bugs along the road. I never get the feeling that I'm in a rut. That's why I'm a nature nut. Well, I'm a nature nut, I'm not afraid to admit. I'm wild about the wild things and I'm proud of it. I'm just a simple case, open and shut. No doubt about it, I'm a nature nut. Well, I'm a nature nut, I'm on a camping trip. I wish I'd brought a bag of chocolate chips. I'm just a simple case and I'd have to conclude there's no doubt about it, should have brought more food. Hi there, I'm John Acorn and I am a nature nut. A naturalist, in other words. I'm the kind of guy who goes out camping to encounter nature. That's the only reason I'm here. I'm not here for the joy of camping. I'm here for the joy of nature. Camping itself is actually a bit of a pain. But let me tell you, the plan for today is I'm going to share with you some nature nut nuggets. They're actually kind of like rules for how to be a nature nut, how to be a naturalist yourself. But we don't want to call them rules because that would take away all the fun. So that's what we're going to do. And it's a beautiful evening here. And the only thing that's wrong is that I can't remember where I put my food. You know, when you're back home, you don't lose your fridge, but man, got a new picnic basket there. Look at that, the cutlery's still in the plastic. I can hardly wait. Coyotes are howling. They probably found my food. I just can't remember where I put it. Anyway, we'll sort that out later. But for now, let's get on with our nature nut nuggets. Oh, hey, did you hear that? That little frog, a boreal chorus frog, is doing a little bit of calling. Ooh, you know, I'm half tempted to go looking for that little frog, but at this time of year, this is late summer. The days are about the same length as they are in the spring when they call for their mates. And so they're just a little confused right now, a little nostalgic perhaps. And so you only hear that sound, you know, once every half hour or something. Whoop, that wasn't a good one. You have to get just the right amount of air under your lip and then so. Not bad. Tried to teach it to my friend the director. Just couldn't get it. You know, not everyone has that kind of talent. Anyway, I like frogs. It's very hard to find them at this time of year. Man, I had a lot of fun though last spring out looking for frogs and toads. Get your headlamp. Nothing finer when you get right down to it. There are normal ways to appreciate nature, and then there are creative ones. This is a good pond for western toads, or boreal toads, same thing. And I'm here with my headlamp. The sun is just about down. I'm going to go out and see if I can get a look at one. The way you find them is you whistle, and they whistle back. He's back there. Let's go get him. Now, the principles of frog finding at night are the same no matter where you go. You have to move slowly because the frogs are sensitive to vibration, but they don't seem to mind the light at all. This little wood frog, I first thought it was a chorus frog, it didn't seem to notice me.
In fact, even when I poked it, it didn't seem to notice me, and I had to almost push it off balance before it even tried to get away.
There he is. Cool. Okay, I'll leave you alone. See you later.
Of course, you also want to use your ears as much as anything, and especially in the spring when they're calling, you just follow the sound, and there are the frogs and the toads.
Well, that was just too much fun. I didn't even think it'd work that well myself. We got right in there. This little toad thought that I was another toad, and he was just singing his little heart out. So, hey, how about that? Big success. You know what I think's a terrible shame? With things like toads being so much fun, isn't it too bad that so many people, when they go out camping and looking for wildlife, they're looking for big mammals and nothing else? Things like deer and moose and bears. I don't know, nothing against deers and moose and bears, but deer, not deers. But I personally find them kind of boring most of the time because they don't do much. I mean, occasionally bears especially will do plenty, more than you'd want them to. Which is why all good campers don't keep their, they don't keep their food in their campsite. That's right. My food is in the pack. It's on a rope, up a tree, so the bears don't get it. The only question is which tree. A lot of trees. Oh, man. Well, that's something to do tomorrow. Find the tree with my food in it. But you get my point, don't you? I mean, most of the excitement of these big animals is in your imagination. Except in the fall. I mean, the males lock antlers and do all that kind of exciting stuff. But most of the year, they just eat. That's all they do. But your imagination, ooh, that's another domain entirely. You go to sleep in the tent, you're hearing bears when they're really just mice. You hear all sorts of things. Wolves, werewolves, Sasquatches. Well, of course, that's only your imagination. Nothing to fear. Lots of people go camping, come back, safe and sound, every year.
Nature's magnificent creatures are often as boring as cows. Well, I'm a nature nut, and I'm patient too, waiting for these ungulates to do something else but chew. They're like giant caterpillars, they just eat all day. Don't you feel sorry for those bales of hay? If only it were fall time when the bulls are all in a rut. Then there'd be a spectacle for all us nature nuts. It's kinda reminiscent here of counting sheep. Watch 'em long enough and you'll just fall asleep. All creatures are interesting, and since creepy crawlies outnumber everything else, they are the most interesting creatures of all.
Well, it's time to clean the bugs out of the tent and get a good sleep. Oh, here we go. There's always the likelihood that you'll find something interesting just before the moment when you fall asleep. And I have here Upus ceramboides, a darkling beetle. I don't know what upus means, but Ceramboides means you might mistake it for a longhorn beetle. You know, if you didn't know the difference between the two. But I always keep a vial handy just in case you find something interesting. I'll get a picture of him tomorrow. Get in there, fall down, and there's a hole in the top. He'll be fine. He'll have a good sleep, and so will I. Anybody else? Everybody out? Whoa, hey! A tiny little chocolate bar. I'm saved. I'll be able to go to sleep without listening to my stomach. Wonderful. A night filled with dreams of creepy crawlies and all the wonderful things that I will find tomorrow, I hope. See you then.
Well, there ain't a single critter doesn't fascinate me. I like 'em all, big and small, in nature nut, you see. I never get the feeling that I'm in a rut. No doubt about it, I'm a nature nut. Flowers, bats and butterflies, snakes and frogs and slugs. Then of course there's beetles and all those shiny bugs. I never get enough of it, you know I'm a nut. Don't knock it till you tried it, that's a nature scuttlebutt.
Get that, another one. Ooh, that's good, that's good, that's good. This will keep me going for another 20 minutes or so. Mmm. 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 That is so good. Oh, you know how everything tastes so much better when you're camping? Oh, that's nice. You should never talk with your mouth full, but when you're camping, all those usual rules of politeness, they break down completely. Oh, this is good. Okay, I'm ready for the day then. Let's go down by the lake and see what's happening. Oh, but you know, I'm just remembering. I had this weird dream. You ever notice that? You don't remember your dream until you've been awake for a couple minutes? All these animals were eating. They were eating all the things that they eat. Quite disgusting. That's good. And I had nothing. And then I heard this kind of growl, and I was having these hallucinations of wilderness monsters. But it was just my stomach. Oh, that was the best darn chocolate bar I ever had in my life. Man. Oh, I'm glad I found that. Okay, anyway, let's go down by the lake. Let's see if anything is waking up. And along the way, scan the trees. If you see my food, make sure to tell me. Where did I leave that stuff? Well, there's some dragonflies out there. And there's nothing wrong with starting your day with a little bit of dragonfly watching. Now these big fellas, these are darner dragonflies, and there could be any of about 10 species of darners here right now, and it's I find it with almost anything that I'm watching in nature, I'm not really satisfied if I can only identify it to the genus level or to the family level. I want to know what the species is. And to tell the species apart with darner dragonflies, you need to get a look at the blue bands on the side of the thorax, which is just about impossible, even with a nice close focusing monocular like this. I use a monocular instead of binoculars when I'm looking at insects, because this one at least focuses much closer than binoculars will. Sneaky little guy. Fast little guys. It's very difficult to do that because they won't sit still. You could, of course, try to wait until they come to rest, but that won't happen until the end of the day. The real solution here would be to catch one of these dragonflies, have a look at it, identify it, and then let it go, which is not that bad of an idea. I mean, after all, it's very much like fishing. You know, you think about it in the traditional way you go fishing is you catch the fish and you bonk it on the head and you fry it up that night for dinner, and it's all very nice. The traditional way of dealing with insects, of course, is to put them in a killing jar and make a collection. But it's just as easy, if you know what you're doing, to catch them, have a look at them, and release them. And this is what fishermen do these days. They release fish so that there will be fish in the future. The difference, of course, is that with fishing, when you let the critter go, it's got a big wound in its mouth because you caught it with a hook. With insects and, you know, other things like frogs and snakes and so on, you can release them without harming them at all, at least if you know how to handle them gently, which is wonderful. And there's one right here. Shh, don't say anything. Got it. Well, there you go. The mystery is solved. That particular pattern of blue-green wide wavy bands, that tells you we're looking at the lake darner, Ischna eremita, and beautiful eyeballs, eh? I couldn't have determined that while it was out over the pond. Wonderful. And now I can let him go. Hey, wake up, dude. And he'll be fine. Catch and release. That's my policy. Hey, have a look at this. This is a regular dragonfly survey. Here's a northern bluet. There he goes. And a saffron bordered meadowfly. Doing fine. Sneaky creatures need to be caught, and to catch them you have to stalk and pounce. The truth is, I've been developing a new form of martial art. It's based on a single weapon, the butterfly net. It's a mixture of the yin and the yang, the inner and the outer, the hard and the soft, the dragon and the dragonfly. I call it bug foo-do. It's also an excuse to do something extremely silly and pretend that it's very serious and important. But you know, if you doubt me, if you laugh, just think how quickly you could catch all the insects in a particular campsite in a matter of seconds, having mastered this ancient art that I just created a few minutes ago.
Guys, come on, stop fooling around. We're not gonna get any lunch, you know.
Don't worry, campers. I will not harm you.
Is everything okay here, folks?
Informal insect survey, sir. 1 mosquito, 3 immature grasshoppers. And an earring in the shape of a pleasing fungus beetle.
Ranger office, we have a strange situation at the campground.
Oh, and look, biting flies near that bison.
Hey! Where did he go?
Where'd he come from?
And for that matter, where is his food?
Well, what do you say we leave the silly stuff behind for a minute and get serious? Oh, and speaking of serious, you know, I should let you know that in provincial parks, national parks, state parks, the rangers, the wardens, they are quite nervous about people with insect nets because they have regulations that are intended to prevent people from poaching their rare butterflies. But, you know, if I were you, I'd do your netting outside of the parks because they really don't make the distinction all that often, and you might get in trouble without intending to. The other thing, oh boy, you should never ever point out to them that they're, you know, squishing a lot of insects on their windshields and mowing them up with the lawnmowers and never identifying a single one. They just don't appreciate that argument. If it was up to me, I think if we really cared about the insects in our parks, we would reduce the speed limit to about 5 kilometers per hour, and we'd never mow the grass. But like I say, don't pass that on, because they won't get it. I think now it's time to get down to basics. And I'm going to show you one of the most basic ecosystems of all. The ecosystem of the lowly cow pie.
Sometimes you find the most fascinating things in the most disgusting places.
You know, your cow pie and your buffalo pie, pretty well the same sort of thing. It's been a timeless aspect of nature. And the way I look at it, every single pie from the minute it hits the turf to the time that it's coming back up through the cycle of life, it's its own little ecosystem. I think of it as a community, like a small town. And like every small town, it changes from those early days to the days when it becomes a ghost town. Let me show you what I mean. That's a pretty fresh one here. Boomtown like this, probably established just a few hours ago. You can see the first settlers are flies. They come here, have a little meal, lay some eggs. Those eggs are gonna hatch, and there's no doubt that the first citizens of this community are gonna be maggots. No two ways around it. Now, place like this, it'll also attract a couple of bad hombres, yellow-bellied polecats, and I'm talking about rove beetles. Run around on the skin of that pie, ambush these flies, kill them dead, eat them right there. Tough time living in a boomtown. See, there's one of them low-life rove beetles right there. Watch him, he's gonna bushwhack the sheriff. Oh! You see that? Happens every day. Oh, and over there, Dry Pie Gulch, I call that one. It's a ghost town. Maybe a few worms living there, but it's seen a better day. For a guy like me, if I'm gonna spend time on the prairie, I wanna find dung beetles. And for dung beetles, you gotta have just the right consistency of pie. Now here's a pie in the prime of its existence. This one's been settling here on the
ground and drying out. Let's have a look inside. All the interesting stuff's happening under the rind. Use a stick. Don't be squeamish. Oh, this one's just about perfect. They make clocks out of these, you know. Some people make clocks out of them. And hey ho, look at that. Boy, howdy, there's some dung beetles in there, all right. There's some nice red and black ones. That's a Photius. Now, it's got no common name. It's, I always forget whether that's a Photius vimitarius or a Photius disjunctus. You know, confusing the two, but that's the red and black one. And that is a native dung beetle. That thing evolved right alongside the buffalo, or actually more like underneath the buffalo. Ah, you get my meaning. But it wasn't quite good enough at cleaning up the buffalo's mess. When the cattle showed up on the prairies, ranchers had to bring in a new kind of dung beetle, Onthophagus. Should be some Onthophagus in the ground here. We'd have to dig them up to find them. Onthophagus have saved the prairies. If it wasn't for Onthophagus burying this stuff, we'd be this deep in you know what. Now you might find this bit of a peculiar thing to do, having a look at dung beetles in buffalo pies. I once would have myself. Then, when I was a young whippersnapper, I read this book, The Sacred Beetle and Others by Jean-Henri Fabre. We call him John Henry Fabre around here. He's a French fella. And he wrote beautifully about dung beetles. Let me just read you a bit. What will these small fry teach us? Even more zealous than their big companions, they are the first that hasten to exploit the heap left by the passing mule. They come in crowds and stay a long time working under the spread table that gives them shade and coolness. I tell you, this boy's got a way with words. Turn over the heap with your foot. You will be surprised at the swarming population whose presence no outward sign betrayed. The largest are scarce the size of a pea, but some are much smaller still, and these dwarves are no less busy than the others, no less eager to crumble into dust the filth, which, in the interests of the public health, must be cleared away with all speed. Get this pile out of here, beetles. Public health depends on it. You know, if you're the kind of person who likes nature and all of its glory, all of its various creatures, you're going to be the kind of person who winds up with a lot of books, mostly field guides. You got your standard field guides, your field guides to the birds, the flowers, rocks, stars, stuff like that, but there are more field guides out there, more technical nature books than you can shake a stick at. Now, mind you, I don't bring mine when I go camping, but I do bring the proper frame of mind for reading them. You gotta kind of leave the rangeland behind, hang up your spurs, get into a frame of mind where you're not afraid of a few big technical words. You know, Latin words. Kind of words you don't hear when you're out on the prairies. One moment, I'll be right with you. One thing that you'll find is that you not only need a well-stocked library of field guides. Where is that? Oh, pens everywhere. Where is that button? There we go. You also need a few good dictionaries because, indeed, it is a challenge. But once prepared, a comb, very much like assembling a correct wardrobe, you will be ready to face the challenges. Please join me in the laboratory. I'll show you exactly what I mean.
There are guidebooks to almost every type of creature just waiting to be translated by you and me.
Allow me now to demonstrate. I have here Robert Gordon's fine volume, The Coccinellidae Coleoptera of America north of Mexico, which you will not find in any bookstore, but you will find it in your library, or perhaps your library could borrow it for you, for it is the only book which will allow you to identify ladybugs with any degree of accuracy on this continent. I also have two specimens
recently acquired in a nearby thistle patch of an unidentified species of Coccinella. I will turn to the Coccinella key and I will show you just how easy this is to do if you are aware of the definition of the key terms. For example, in couplet 1, we face a choice. Elytron, very largely or entirely black, or elytron with extensive pale areas, at least basally. As any fool can see, the second option is the correct one. Proceeding then to couplet 3, where we are placed in the position of having to make another choice. The elytral suture is either very narrowly margined with dark brown or black, at least apically, or the elytral suture is red. Return again with me to the diagram of the elytra, and you will see that the elytral suture, from base to apex, is entirely red. The choices are quite simple so far. A pleasure. We proceed to couplet 9. In couplet 9, we notice that the head is either pale except for a black band across the base, or the head is dark with two well-separated spots on the front. This is a fairly tricky thing to determine. One moment, field microscope. I will examine the specimens. I am happy to say that the head is dark with two pale spots on the front, as indicated here using the color yellow. Progress is indeed being made. Couplet 11, a ventral... Oh, this is a difficult couplet, I must say. Pay close attention. The ventral pale spot on each anterior pronotal angle, pardon me, is either small, usually subtriangular, extending posteriorly not more than 1/2 as far as the dorsal spot, except very rarely, or that same spot is usually trapezoidal, extending posteriorly as far or almost as far as the dorsal spot, except in some specimens of H. kirbii and U. unitus impunctata, in which the dorsal spot is narrowly prolonged to the posterior pronotal angle. You recall the location of the posterior pronotal angle here at the posterior angle of the pronotum. This takes us, as I'm sure you have determined already, or perhaps you haven't because you haven't been able to examine the ventral surface, as I will shortly do. Flip over there, little fellow. Ah, yes, as I suspected. This takes us to couplet 12. The first of those two alternatives is the one which obtains here. Couplet 12, the elytron is usually provided with a subbasal fascia, or the elytron never has a subbasal fascia, of course the basal portion being here and the subbasal portion being there. Simple, easy to remember. There is no subbasal fascia, and we can proceed to couplet 14, occurring at or north of the northern limit of trees on Gava Bay to Alaska. No, no, no. Or not occurring north of the St. Lawrence River in Quebec. Much better. We proceed to couplet 15. Very simple choice, 5 to 6 millimeters in length or over 6.5. These are robust, large, impressive ladybugs. And we can now conclude, with some degree of satisfaction, that we are looking at Coccinella septempunctata, the 7-spotted ladybug. And I can release these creatures now knowing exactly what they are.
Keep notes, make drawings, and take pictures.
Today we'll go bird watching. Tomorrow we'll catch toads. The next day we'll take photographs of bugs along the road. I never get the feeling that I'm in a rut. That's why I'm a nature nut. I'm a nature nut, I got a lot of stuff. I pack a vest and pockets full, it's never enough. Well, memories without photos lose their clarity. I'm keeping all these records for posterity.
Hey, what's he licking his lips for? Don't tell me you found my food. Oh, man.
Well, you know, the truth is you don't have to keep as many notes and records and photographs and so on as I do. Some people consider me a bit of a fanatic that way, but on the other hand, if you do, you'll find sooner or later that they are a great thing to have, a great resource. You can look through your, well, here's one of my notebooks. You can look through your notebooks. You can reminisce about those wonderful days in the field. You can flip through your photographs. Let me read you a bit here. Hey, why not? Yeah, there's what I'm looking for. April the 7th, 1993, Wednesday, near Devon. Went out this morning to pick up Dina's forgotten sunglasses from Heidi and Mike's place. Now, Dina's my wife. She usually doesn't forget things, but that day she did forget her sunglasses. While I was there, I decided to track down the saw-whet owl. It had been calling before I arrived, but at 9 o'clock it stopped. I searched for more than an hour without success and then moved down the hill to check out some noisy chickadees in a patch of black spruce. As soon as I got about 100 meters away, the owl started calling again. Well, 10 minutes later I found him. I set up the OM4 with the 210 telephoto, and the batteries went dead. Fortunately, I got 2 pics with the other camera, but they will be distant and boring, and whew, were they ever. Threw them out. Then with the camera over my shoulder, I climbed up the next tree and tried again, but the owl got nervous and flew away, probably since he's active during the day during this hormonal season. This was also a great day for semi-albinos. At the feeder, I saw the white-feathered female house sparrow. Then on the way to Devon, a starling with lots of white in the tail. Then, at the university, a ghostly pale magpie flew by me behind Pembina Hall and landed to feed. And to top it off, when I told the story to Gord Court, he said he'd discovered a peregrine falcon skin with a single white wing feather that very day. What do you think? I mean, that brings back warm memories for me. The other thing you can do is you can make sketches. Now, this is not the world's nicest sketch, but it'll illustrate the point. That was the only piece of paper I had that day when I was watching these gold-eye ducks doing all these various peculiar body postures. Or pardon me, golden-eye ducks. Gold-eye are fish, golden-eye are ducks. Sometimes hard to remember. And I took the time to draw some little pictures of them. When you sketch things, it forces you to pay a little bit better attention to them, and so it sharpens your observational skills. I also sometimes carry with me a bigger sketchbook so that I can make bigger sketches. And oh, there's a nice one. Bit of a leopard frog there. And like I say, you don't really have to do all of this stuff in order to enjoy nature, to be a nature nut, but it sure does help. I think the reason that I've become this way is because I'm not really a typical North American nature nut. In North America, many people nowadays especially, they take it as more of a sport. They're concerned about how many birds they've got on their life list, or how many birds they've seen in 24 hours, how many birds they've seen in their backyard. I've been much more deeply influenced by the European tradition of nature nutism. You know, you really relax into your natural history and make a full meal of it. Yes, quite. In particular, I've been influenced by the British tradition of natural history, even though I myself am not British.
Be creative with your equipment. There's something for every budget.
Ah yes, equipment. Of course, for every task there is a proper sort of equipment, and there is equipment which is not quite adequate. For example, if you want to view a distant animal, I would recommend that you use a pair of binoculars like these, which give a very crisp, beautiful image. Excuse me, pardon me, this stiff upper lip thing is very difficult to maintain, I find. My personal upper lip being a bit limp at times, but let's not dwell on that. Now, these are a very inexpensive alternative to binoculars. They are binocular goggles, And the truth of the matter is that you can't see a thing through them. Yeah, very good. I think it's a pig of some sort. Yes. It's approximately equivalent to looking through the bottom of a couple of drinking glasses and trying to see... Excuse me, a bit of a sun flare there. Trying to see something through them. It's very difficult. In this case, I would say that these are not proper instruments for the task at all. Not worth using. However, if you will give me one moment, there are other instances in which case you can use very inexpensive materials like this pop bottle. Very difficult to say pop bottle with your lip like this too. And produce a rather effective, inexpensive insect trap. Let's say you wanted to know what sorts of insects were visiting rotten bananas in your part of the world. You simply construct yourself one of these. Do come over here. There we go. You simply stick it in the ground. There, yes, quite firm. Place the bait underneath, in this case a rotten banana. And then you simply wait. Now isn't that beautiful? Isn't it simplicity itself? You could build one almost anywhere. And of course many people travel extensively in search of nature these days. It costs a great deal of money. You have to save money somewhere. Why not save it on equipment of this sort? So easy to build, so rewarding when it functions correctly. Hi, yes. Oh. Oh, yeah. Perhaps it's a buffalo.
You can go to nature, or you can bring nature to you.
Well, you know, one of the ways you can get to know some of the more elusive creatures in nature is to keep them alive in an aquarium or a terrarium. But although most people get their captive critters from a pet store, you don't have to make them into pets to get a good look at them. In fact, you don't have to keep them in the aquarium for very long at all. I've got my pond scumen net here. We're going to do a little scumen in this pond, see what kind of pond critters are here, take them up to the portable nature nook, and have a look at them in my portable aquarium. What do you think of that? Good idea.
Yeah, good. Don't want to get into the mud too much. Go easy on the pond weed. Oh, there we go. Get rid of some of this big stuff here. Any goodies on there? Nope. Oh, hey, look.
Why, it's a female giant predaceous diving beetle, Dytiscus alascanis. Ha, that's great. Okay, let's get this critter and whatever else might be in here over to the aquarium right away. Okay, here's a scud. And I think that's everybody out of the net. Now we can settle back and enjoy our little mini pond ecosystem here, which is a lot easier to observe than the pond itself. Although, you could go snorkeling in the pond, but that's not a good idea. Much better to go snorkeling in a nice crystal clear lake or some sort of tropical reef. But pond, no. No, not at all. Okay, well, let's have a look and first of all figure out what it is that we've got here and then what they're doing. Now, those two big beetles, those are the most obvious things. Those are predaceous diving beetles. I think they're Dytiscus alascanis, if you're the sort of person like me who really likes to know these things. And they are wonderful critters. There's one up at the top getting a breath of air. They have to breathe air. They take a bubble down with them under their wing covers. And you can see, by the way, too, here that the female is the one with the grooves in the wing covers, the elytra. And the male is the one with the smooth elytra. And he's got some little leech stuck to one of his elytra as well. But I don't think it's not actually biting him because there's nothing underneath except the folded inner wing. So there's nothing for it to be biting on. It might just be hitching a ride. Now there's a big leech in here too, and I thought that perhaps these diving beetles were going to eat that big leech, but they're not. I kept some of the beetles alive in an aquarium last year, about 10 of them, and I fed them worms, and man, it was carnage. Talk about carnage. When they ate the worms, they are voracious little predatory critters, these beetles. What else have we got in here? We've got some scuds. A lot of people around here call them freshwater shrimp, but they're not really shrimp at all. They're a crustacean, but they're called scuds. That's their proper name. And they're not doing very much here. They're just swimming around, probably looking for something to eat. Everybody looks like it's looking for something to eat. Nobody's trying to escape. They're probably still under the impression that they're back in the pond, which is exactly what we want. And there are also some caddisfly larvae in here. They're sort of like caterpillars, except that they live underwater and they build themselves a tube, in this case out of water plant leaves, and then they hide in the tube. They just look like a little bit of water plant moving around in the water. Now, things are a little bit, they're getting kicked around here. The caddisfly larvae are not behaving naturally in this aquarium because they keep getting bashed into by the water beetles. I just get so absorbed in this sort of thing. It's kind of like taking a television when you go camping. Anyway, if you do this, and I suggest that you do because it's a lot of fun, you can have a look at your critters. You can spend as much or as little time as you want, and then you just pick up the whole thing, take it back to the pond, and let them all go. Okay, here we go. And be free, creatures of the pond. Everybody out. Little wolf spider. Get out. There we go. I've gotten so much pleasure from so many hundreds of hours of looking at various sorts of animals in aquaria. And even when you get your pet animals from the pet store, it's really important to remember that they are still products of nature. And as far as they're concerned, they're still in nature. They don't know the difference.
This is your planet. Get out and take a look around.
Some people tell me that I'm not serious enough about the study of nature. Here's what I tell them in return. It seems to me that conservation, that environmentalism, that the stewardship of our planet should be based on appreciation of nature, not on fear of nature. We spend so much time worrying about destroying nature or nature destroying us, and so little time actually getting out there and looking at what it is that we're so concerned about. The only way to appreciate nature is to connect with nature, and the only reason I find to connect with nature is because it's an enjoyable thing to do. That's why I have so much trouble being serious about the study of nature. I like it too much. I have too much fun.
I'm a nature nut, I'm not afraid to admit I'm wild about the wild things and I'm proud of it. I'm just a simple case, open and shut. No doubt about it, I'm a nature nut. Today we'll go bird watching, tomorrow we'll catch toads. The next day we'll take photographs of bugs along the road. I never get the feeling that I'm in a rut. That's why I'm a nature nut. There ain't a single critter doesn't fascinate me. I like 'em all, big and small, a nature nut, you see. I never get the feeling that I'm in a rut. No doubt about it, I'm a nature nut. Flowers, bugs and butterflies, snakes and frogs and slugs. Then of course there's beetles and all those shiny bugs. I never get enough of it, you know I'm a nut. Don't knock it till you tried it, that's a nature scuttlebutt. I'm a nature nut, I've got a lot of stuff. I pack a vest and pockets full, it's never enough. Memories without photos lose their clarity. I'm keeping all these records for posterity. I'm a nature nut, I'm not afraid to admit I'm wild about the wild things and I'm proud of it. I'm just a simple case, open and shut. No doubt about it, I'm a nature nut. Same time each and every week, straight from me to you. You know that I'm a nature nut and I hope that you're one too.